Hi everyone, it's David again, and I have some good news. You're officially half done with the course. Congratulations. But we don't have time to celebrate. Let's get right to it. As you may recall, the last module addressed the OE pathway, the pathway that's all about who gets into school and who doesn't. For the current module, we're moving to the ED pathway, the pathway that speaks to what education delivers in terms of jobs, money, and other outcomes. The key question here, once you get into college, what does it do for you, if anything? We won't even try to summarize the relevant research on the question of school outputs. There's just too much of it. Rather, our job is to develop a classification of outputs, and we're going to leave it to you to figure out, on the basis of the readings and the videos, which of these outputs is actually being delivered.
Let's start with the standard claim that the primary reason to go to college is to get the skills you need for a good job. The well-known story goes like this. We learn key skills in college, and these skills make us more productive and therefore more valuable to employers. And as a result, by virtue of acquiring them, we earn more money. By this logic, college is simply an investment, and this investment pays off in the form of extra earnings over the life course. This story is so frequently rehearsed that it may seem more like fact than a hypothesis. But it is just a hypothesis, and indeed, it's one that some scholars have called into question. These skeptics suggest that colleges don't impart much in the way of skills. But it's not that colleges do nothing. It's just that what they do is to select rather than train. According to this account, the primary job of colleges is to sift and winnow students. So the best students are selected into the best colleges, and the less talented students are accepted into the lesser colleges. During their 4 years in college, students learn very little, and therefore we end up with a post-college student ranking that's very similar to the pre-college student ranking. So that's the sorting story. But if colleges just sort and rank and don't impart any skills, does that mean that employers should ignore what colleges deliver? Maybe not. After all, firms need to know which students stand out from the competition. And a post-college ranking based on grades and prestige provides just that type of signal. In part, the quality of the signal depends on how class-biased it is. If your grades and success in college reflect mainly whether you're exposed to the types of knowledge taught in middle-class schools, then that post-college ranking reflects mainly whether you had a middle-class upbringing. This is a class-biased signal. So the key social science question here is, to what extent are colleges delivering class-biased signals of this very sort? But even if the college signal is grossly class-biased, that doesn't mean that it's not useful for firms. Let's imagine that you're running a wedding planning business that caters to the middle class. It probably helps to hire employees who've had a middle-class upbringing and therefore know what the middle-class wedding is all about. But for other firms, a class-neutral signal may be more useful. So far, we've talked about the training and sorting that schools carry out. But I want to end my section here with talking about a third kind of output, the social output. It's long been argued that colleges, especially elite ones, are just big social clubs that provide the type of networks that are useful for the world of work. Why do you join a college fraternity or sorority? Presumably it's not just to party. It's also because your brothers and sisters will help you find that plum internship, or that job offer, or get you a great contract or referral. Some have argued that it's these network ties that account for much of the payoff to going to college.
I want to intervene here to provide an even more radical view of what colleges do. My simple claim, they do absolutely nothing. By contrast, Lindsay has schools imparting real skills, sorting and ranking students, and providing students with social networks. By all of these accounts, schools are at least doing something. I'm going to suggest, just to be devil's advocate, that colleges don't do one whit of value-added work. Let's consider, for the sake of argument, the case of Stanford University. When you graduate from Stanford University, you get a really nice diploma that's saying, among other things, you're a great worker. I'm contending that employers will value this credential a lot, but not because it's saying you're a great worker. I'll elaborate. If I'm running a law firm and I have two equally qualified candidates from which to choose, one from Stanford Law School and another from a less prestigious law school, I'm probably going to choose that one with the Stanford credential. Why? Because my law firm clients think that Stanford students are great, and I want to please and impress those clients. It's all about garnering legitimacy. The obvious conclusion here: the myth that Stanford students are great works to prop up the value of the credential. If clients or customers believe the myth, if they believe that the Stanford credential testifies to something, then it's worth it to me to buy the credential and garner the legitimacy. I'm going to prefer the Stanford student, even if in effect Stanford puts its students in deep freeze while they're in college, adding absolutely nothing to their skills or knowledge.
The foregoing is, of course, an extreme position, but it nicely rounds out our discussion of what colleges are or are not delivering for employers. But now I want to shift to a discussion of what schools are delivering outside of the world of work. There are, after all, realistically, two markets to which students are oriented: the labor market and the marriage market. If you can't get a good job, you can always focus on marrying well and earn your money the indirect way. Even if you don't care about learning, even if you don't care about getting a good job, you might still want to go to college. Where else, after all, are you going to meet a partner with high earnings potential? This account should of course strike you as familiar. As you may recall, we've already discussed how schools convey job-related networks that can yield that good job offer, that nice internship, that sweet contract. As a supplement to that discussion, I'm now suggesting that schools can deliver other types of high payoff networks that yield lucrative social partnerships, like marrying well.
I want to turn now to the possibility that schooling is a consumption item. Up to now, we've been focusing on schooling as an investment that may pay off in the marriage market or in the labor market. In either case, schooling is nothing but a means to an end, in effect a sacrifice that you make to secure returns in the future. This amounts to ignoring the consumption side of schooling. We presumably go to schools not just as an investment, but also because they yield immediate returns. What kind of immediate returns am I talking about? Two types. The most obvious is that schools can be fun. The partying, the hookups, the independence. What's not to like? But secondly, we ought not scoff at the possibility that at least some people go to school to learn. It's not just about gaining skills that have payoff in the labor market, or just about making social connections that have payoff in the marriage market. It's also about the fulfillment that comes from learning. This is a long-standing idea, going back to at least the Enlightenment, that human fulfillment comes from understanding ourselves and understanding the world. We shouldn't deride the ideal that we participate in schooling just to learn. Maybe that's why you're taking this course. And that is a fitting endpoint to our introduction to this module. It's time for you to go to work. We've delivered some superb videos by Richard Aram, Florencia Torche, David Harding, and Seamus Khan. And now your job is to watch the videos carefully, go through the associated readings, and think about the types of school outputs that are under consideration. Although the output question is not always explicitly discussed in the videos, it is at least a part of the subtext, and an important part at that. Good luck and happy viewing.